Okay, if there's no more questions, we go on with the Eurostars, which is a funding instrument that funds European research and development projects, which can address any technological area, but with a civilian purpose. Here I have to say, I'm not sure if there was anybody from the materials, I think I heard somebody say something with steel. If you are specifically developing something that could be, something like impenetrable steel for tanks, then even if you make that into something that sounds not so military, they might come back to you and start asking difficult questions on that. So make sure it really is civilian purpose. And as an example, we did one project in this area that was also on very new materials, because one of the companies was working as one of the sectors with military airspace. Eurostars wanted to have a declaration from that company that the new materials will not be used into military airspace for the next 5 years after the project. So keep that in mind, they're very much about civilian. So that is important to know. Aimed at the development of new products, processes or services, again. Collaboration between at least 2 participants, and these are legal entities, cannot be 2 persons, has to be really a legal entity. Like a company, can be a company and a university, but from 2 different Eurostars participating countries. I'll come back to you on what that is exactly. Main participant must be a research performing SME. I will give also a definition of that in the next slide. And it has regular deadlines twice a year. Next deadline is September 3rd, 2020, and the one after that, so in case you don't make it for this one, is probably going to be March 2021. And so every time March and September. More info on the link. Well, what is it for? As I said, new products, processes and services. And also, for example, to gain access to transnational and international markets. So if you already have, let's say, a novel product and you want to use this funding to go to novel markets. For example, I have a Dutch app. And I want to translate that to the German market. I probably need to do some research on that. I need some German customers to give me feedback on the interface. I need maybe also on cultural differences. I need information about the German market. I could all put that into a Eurostars project. Now, a small, medium-sized enterprise, according to the European definition, is any company that has less than 250 staff headcount, turnover less than 50 million, or a balance sheet total of less than 43 million. Again, these differences are important in certain branches. For example, if you deal with a lot of steel, it might be that your balance sheet total is over the 43 million, but that doesn't mean that your turnover is over the 50 million. So that is why they made a difference there. On the R&D performing, if you have a smaller company, let's say less than 100 employees, you need to have at least 5 FTE dedicated to R&D, or dedicate at least 10% of FTEs, full-time equivalents, by the way, for people who don't know the terminology, to R&D, or 10% of your turnover to R&D activities. So there are different ways to calculate that. And if you are bigger than 100 employees and you wanted to use the rate, then you need at least 10 full-time equivalents. So again, you can see that is 10% of your, and then you have 10, and it is then less than 10% dedicated to R&D. Now, in the old days, they did not really know how to check this R&D performing. In the Netherlands, they still have not checked any of the projects that I know of if you are really R&D performing. There are some ways to do this, of course, that they ask an accountant, for example, for declaration, but they haven't been very difficult about this. In some other countries, they actually, for example, in the financial year reports, companies have to already write down how much they're doing in R&D. So if you have a number there, of course, it has to then correspond with this number. But there is, up until now, no case that I know of, at least in the Netherlands, where they have asked for proof to be R&D performing. Yeah, as I said, the international collaboration between two countries, as you can see here, there is a bigger scope than just Europe. Zambia is there, there is Canada there, even, let me see, what else is here? KR is probably Korea, is there. So there is a lot of countries there that are not necessarily European, and you can see from the next, let's say from the Eurostars started in Europe, but they were very happy to take on other countries because every country is financing their projects. So that it makes it very easy. It's not like in the European Framework Program where all the countries put in the money in one big pot and then it's divided through the call system. So when the call topic comes up, everybody can apply for it. And then England or the UK was taking most of the money, and then the Netherlands. So we're lucky that the UK is leaving. But in this case, it really is when there is a Canadian project, the Canadian research body will fund the Canadian project, the part of the project. You can have technical activities and market and business development financed. So technical activities could be the development of the app, as I just gave as an example, or prototype development, things like that. Market and business development. Market, for example, a market analysis. If you want to know how your customer would respond, either with, for example, a prototype and do research, or find out how big the market is, find out channels for selling your products. But also thinking about how you're going to organize your company. Are you going, if you're collaborating with multiple companies, are you going to make a spin-off company, or is one of the companies going to be the front, etc. So that part also of the business development can be financed in this scheme. Within 2 years after the project should be ready for launch onto the market. Again, they are not really checking up on this. Of course, they also realize there is sometimes failure. So sometimes you are developing a product and turns out not to be able to put it on the market, but they will come back to you and ask for surveys because they want to know how successful their scheme is. And up until now, I think it is rather successful, even when sometimes people don't make it exactly within the 2 years to the market. At least what they can see from Eurostars is that people have improved maybe another product. So they wanted to make a whole new one, but somewhere halfway through they decided that is not yet feasible. Let's go for something easier. But they do see that there is an economic gain from participating in this project, which is what they want. Well, as I said, how is it funding? So the national funding rules apply. So if you're a Dutch company or a Dutch university, you get funded by the Dutch rules. Then that also means that every country has their own rules. And that sometimes makes it difficult because if you're starting the project, then with a consortium with different countries, you have to check what are the rules in each country and to make sure that there is the right, let's say the right scheme is followed. And sometimes it's unfair. For example, in the Netherlands, the small, medium-sized enterprises only get 45% funding, while in other countries, maybe people will get more funding as a SME. But that's the way it is. Large companies, maximum 35%, the university and research institute, maximum 50%. And the whole consortium in the Netherlands can get maximum 500,000 euros together. And that maximum per country is sort of the norm in most countries now. So they basically said each country, doesn't matter if it's 1 or 3 participants, can get maximum 500,000 in that country. And in some cases, like the German funding body, they will require more information before they go to funding, but they will most of the times wait. So once your application is approved, then they will ask you for more information, which could be the project application form in German, for example. or extra, in the Netherlands, it's an extra detail of your budget. So you have to make an Excel sheet, which you don't have to do for Eurostars. But normally it's not too much work, this extra work, but it's extra information, but you have to be aware that you have to do that. Eurostars is very much looking for balance. So at least 50% of the project's core activities should be carried out by SMEs, because this instrument is there for small, medium-sized enterprises. And they don't want any participant or country to invest more than 75% of the total project cost. So you have to have also a balance there. Maximum duration is 3 years. What I have seen most is projects that are 2 years. Sometimes these will need to get an extension, and then they will take 2.5 years. Which brings also this average project, which funnily enough has 29 months duration, which I think is because many of these projects will have a few months extension. They have 2 to 3 countries involved, 3 to 4 participants, and about 1.5 million in funding. So in case you want to apply, you register on the Eurostars website, and there you fill out all the information. And you also upload financial statements, financial reports for every participant. What you fill out, this project plan that you have to fill out, will get some basic assessment, a technology and innovation assessment, and a market and competitiveness assessment. I think what is most important for you to know is that, look at the bullets while I talk, but basically what they want is, are you able to carry out this project with the right technology capacity and management capacity? Did you have, have you really thought it through? Are you going to have something that has, on the one hand, a good maturity, where the risk is manageable, but on the other hand, have some degree of innovation? So they're not looking for high risk projects, but they're looking for maybe medium risk projects. And then also with the risk that can be managed through good project planning. And then for the market, of course, they want to have good market potential for the participating SMEs. They want to see some strategic importance of the project also for Europe. So, for example, because you will have something that relates to renewable energy, that relates to healthcare, that relates to high-tech markets. So think about your benefit for Europe. But also think in terms of market size and access to the market and how to get there, to describe that well. So how does the evaluation work? Eurostars organizes the overall ranking of the projects. Then based on that ranking, the national funding agencies will fund the projects until the budget is depleted. Now it is possible that another low-ranking proposal will get funding because their national funding agencies did not run out of budget yet. So this has happened with consortia that had Dutch and German partners. They are this scheme was very popular with the Dutch and the Germans. So in that case, a consortium from Romania and Hungary, they actually managed to be placed, I think it was somewhere on number 165. And they still got funding. They were over the threshold, and those countries didn't have many projects, while in the Netherlands, projects that were lower ranked at 30 didn't get funding anymore. So that might sound a bit unfair, but it really has to do with the national funding budgets. So also as a hint, check who you work with, because some of the countries are more popular than others, and maybe you can work with a less popular country, which might help you with finding the funding for all the countries. In case you do not get the national funding, you can still continue if that partner is willing to participate without the funding. So that still is an option. Okay, so that was it for Eurostars. Is there any questions? Very quiet, maybe check the chat.
Yeah. Okay, there was one MIT question. Let's take Lars Let's do Lars' Eurostar question first, which is how much funding is available? 500,000 question mark.
Yeah, so if you have, let's say that now I'm just going to take the example, you want to work with a German company or a German research institute, and you are based in the Netherlands, then you can ask for 500,000 in the Netherlands and you can ask for 500,000 in Germany. So then there is in total for the whole project, there is 1 million available. But in the Netherlands, there is a maximum of 500,000 that you have to split between all the Dutch participants. If you're the only Dutch participant, you can get the full 500,000 funding. But take care, if you are a small, medium-sized enterprise, you get maximum 45% funding. So you have to bring more than 500,000 euro yourself to the table. Yeah, so there is a follow-up question if there is a total amount available. This is different from year to year, but in principle, what I can see is that there is somewhere between 5 and 15 projects funded in the Netherlands. The success rate is maybe more of interest for you. In the Netherlands lies on 35%. Well, now I don't want to brag, but I'm going to do it anyway. We have done this scheme many, many times, and our success rate is on 75%. So once you know what you have to write or how to write it, you really gain a lot from that. And then we have 100% success rate with resubmission. So where we failed, for example, in September, we got the review back, we read the comments. Sometimes it was because, let's say, the Norwegian Research Council wanted to see something in that proposal very specifically, and they influenced the review very much. Yeah, so then we knew that, so then we changed that. Or sometimes they didn't understand the part of the technology, for example, or they didn't understand our explanation of the market, and then we improved that, and then we had 100% success rate. So it is, in that case, it's low. I see Eurostars as low-hanging fruit. And also, again, for especially the Dutch people, if you combine Eurostars with WBSO, which is not funding, which is a tax reduction scheme, but if you can combine that, then your funding rate gets much better. So that is, then you get over 55%, I think. So just as a hint, there is many ways of making Eurostars a very attractive instrument to use for companies.